Hi, my name is Carlos. I wanted to share information about my 1977 Scout. I've got it right here. I've had the Scout for 25 years, and I know that, shocking to me, old SUVs like that have gotten really popular over the years. So I just wanted to share some information about my experiences with the Scout over the last years, what it cost me to make certain changes, what it cost me to operate, what it's like to drive one. I drive it every weekend. I'm not a show car guy as much as a guy that jumps in his car, drives it, enjoys it. I do all my own mechanical work, and the rest of the work I end up doing it very cost effectively. So I wanted to share some ideas that you can use if it's an interest to you. I love the hobby. It's been a lot of fun. I will always continue it. I'll always have the Scout. So I just want to kind of share my experiences, my story, my truck, and give as many details as you want. I'm part of a great community on Facebook and stuff. We're always sharing information about our trucks, and so I just wanted to continue that. I got into the Scout 1997. There was a BF Goodrich ad with the old square-bodied Broncos, and I really wanted a Bronco like that. So I was out looking for them, but they were all like $4,000 and $5,000 at the time, which was way out of my budget. So I was like, okay, so let me find kind of an alternative. So I was kind of looking at trucks. So my dad called me one day, and he goes, "Hey, down at Big Al's junkyard, they have one of those trucks you've been after sitting in the junkyard in the back." So I was like, okay. So I ran down to Big Al's, and sure enough, it was sitting there with plants growing in it in the back. So I talked to the guys at the junkyard, and they're like, "Yeah, we just got that in. The electrical system is shot. It's obviously rusted. You can see the plants. The mechanical system is shot. You can have it for $600. So I was like, okay. So I'd pick it up for $600, tow it home. The only time it's been on a tow truck in 25 years, so it gives you some idea as to the reliability of it. So I get the truck home, and sure enough, he's right. The electrical system is shot. So I replaced the battery first, and nothing's lighting up, not even a lighter. On old cars, lighters always work. Truck may be entirely junk, but the lighter always seems to work. So I figured that's kind of weird. So I replaced the fuse box for $19. I replaced the fuse box, and the entire system lights up fine. So I'm like, okay, that's kind of interesting. So I check the oil, check everything with the motor, and I'm like, crank it over, see what happens. Turns it over, runs fine, and it's been running for 25 years since. It was actually, what happened was that the shift cable broke for $80. And since it wasn't running anymore, I guess the guy just let it just go. So I ended up replacing the shift cable for $80, fuse box and battery, and started driving the car. And it kind of led me to where I am today, because when I got the car home, I was thinking I'll just replace the motor and do all this kind of stuff. And then I figured, if it's running, I'll see how long it keeps running. And if it comes some later date that I have to replace the motor, I'll do it then. Guess what? In 25 years, the motor's continued to run. So I haven't had one problem with it. So it kind of led me to my approach with these cars, which is to say, I just take pieces of it and I modernize it and fix it, but I leave the overall motor the way it is. So I've kind of left it stock in a lot of ways, but I've modernized components of it, and it's allowed me to create a very reliable truck that's been super inexpensive to operate. But let's jump into the car truck. I'll show you details of it. I'll show you how I did it and approach, and you could kind of look at it yourself, but I think it turned out beautifully. So I replaced the bumper. This is a more modern bumper that I had custom made for it, and it really worked out well. So I kind of like that look. The headlights I replaced with these LED headlights, and in replacing the headlights, I had to cut the cam. And it's kind of a common thing with aftermarket parts that you're gonna have to do some customization. Not that big a deal, super easy. I'll go into that and how you do it. But the rest of the grille, etc., is stock. I did replace all the light bulbs. It's funny, you can buy a kit to replace all the light bulbs in the Scout for like $19. That's one of the things I want to talk about. Parts for these trucks are super cheap. In those days, International shared components and parts with Ford and Chevy and all these other guys. So you're going to find most of the parts that you need readily available at AutoZone and super inexpensive. So that's another thing that makes it a really fun hobby. It doesn't cost me that much to keep on the road. Now you can see on the side, I do use BF Goodrich tires, and I also have these rims. The rims have been on here 25 years. The tires are replaced periodically as you go. I replaced these fender flares, which kind of give it that wider, kind of beefier look. I was really happy with that look for it. So overall, the exterior, you can see from the paint job, it's very happy, it's very straight. And one of the interesting things with the paint job is when I had it done, I went to a guy who I really liked his paint work, and I said, you know, can you paint my Scout? He took a look 1 minute, he took a look at it and said, no, I'm not taking on a project like that. So I said, okay, what do I need to do to make it something you would do? And he said, get somebody else to weld the bed in there. You strip it completely, bring it to me that way, and I'll shoot it for you. So I said, okay, fair enough. Took it to a guy, he welds the bed in there, $600. I get it home, I strip it for him, take everything off, strip it down, and he shot it for $3,000. This is 25 years ago. You can see how the paint looks now. I wax it and wash it periodically. It's obviously maintained stays in a garage. But you can see that it really turned out. I'm very happy with the way it's turned out. It's rust free, but you will notice scratch, dings, and dents. Again, I drive the truck every weekend, so you're gonna see that. The interior I've had done a couple times over the years. 2 times I've had the interior done. I usually spend $1,800 to $2,000 each time I've done it. I'm happy with it. It works for me and my uses. Again, I drive weekends, I go to the boat, I go out to Siesta Key. I'm a big proponent of using your truck. I'm gonna be taking it out to the oyster bar this afternoon. I'm gonna enjoy driving it on the Key. I drive it everywhere, and it's super reliable, super fun to drive. I'm about that. I'll see a lot of the news groups, a lot of guys like to do the LS swap, and they like to add the fuel injection, and they like the transmissions. If you're that guy, God bless you. I'm a guy that fixes it, keeps it on the road, keeps it running great, and I like the old car feel. I like the old V8 rumble. I'm all about that, and it's super inexpensive. I'm all about fixing it, driving it, fixing it, driving it, and just driving it all the time. I'll schedule my fixes, I'll plan it, and I'm gonna go into that in detail because I fixed the whole starting system, the fuel systems, and all these things. And I take the time to kind of outline what I'm gonna do, and then I'll take a rainy Sunday or a Saturday or a full weekend, and I'll replace that entire system, and it'll run great for years, and it's super inexpensive. That's my approach to doing an older car. Some guys like to take it and redo the whole thing. I think a lot of times you're gonna find that it's a lot of years and a lot of money, and you can end up losing interest. Whereas with my approach, you end up driving the car for that entire time and enjoying it, and you feel cool about taking that Saturday and just fixing all these parts and stuff like that. Again, because of the shared components, it's super inexpensive. An alternator for one of these is like $80 and available at AutoZone. You know, I had the power steering pump go out. I went to AutoZone, it's $80, and you know, the tools you need, I started out with no tools, and I've added tools to the years, and I got a shop manual, highly recommended. I'll go into that in detail. Get the shop manual, start with a few tools, and do it as you go, right? And that power steering pump did need a special tool to do the power steering pump, but you know, AutoZone will rent it to you for free. So you go in there, they sell you the fuel power steering pump. It was like $90, I think, not even that. And then they give you the tool to do it for free. You take the morning, you redo the whole system, replace some hoses. Now you're good for years, and it runs like a champ. And you learn something. If you're taking it to a mechanic, and I see this all the time, guys get super frustrated because they're constantly going to mechanics. And what happens is any little fix that you could do in 2 hours and enjoy your car for the weekend, you're out of that car for 3 weeks. You start getting frustrated because it's always going to the shop with little things. Instead of just taking the time, fixing it all once, because you will do better work than the mechanic, because you're going to research it, you're going to ask the Facebook groups how to do it, and you're going to come up with an approach that's far better than your mechanic would have done. And then you're going to fix it solidly, and it's going to be super reliable for years. That's why I highly recommend that approach. And I'm going to go into each component and each subsystem and how you go about doing it, but do it yourself. Take the time, learn how to do it, and do it yourself. And work with what's there. These trucks were made for a lot of years. They're super reliable. There's this belief with a lot of people that until recently, people weren't driving cars or something. They're super reliable. Just fix what you got. But let's continue with our tour of the truck. In the back, you can see I did do a tire carrier that's different. So I did a tire carrier and a gas can back here. I had a custom bumper made, and I'm pseudo happy with it, to be honest. I don't like the way the gap is too much for me. And it's a company that really didn't stand behind the bumper. So I don't think the look is that bad, but overall fit and finish, I would have expected more. So I've got some work to do here in order to make it work better. But overall, it was kind of the look I was going for. But you're gonna notice whenever you buy aftermarket parts for these things, that is not gonna fit exactly textbook. Everything fit perfectly. These older cars weren't made with those kinds of tolerances, but hey, that's part of the fun of owning it, just like that V8 Rumble was part of the fun of owning it. So it's something I've thoroughly enjoyed. You know, when I go into, again, I'm gonna go into the cost of ownership part of this thing. One of the things I want to talk about is the total cost of ownership on these things, and the importance of doing it yourself. Recently, I had an issue with a freeze plug, and a freeze plug, there's little plugs in the motor or something, and one was leaking. When one leaks, they all tend to leak, so I wanted to get it done, but it's a bit of labor to get it done. So I called around to shops, and it was amazing. Most of them wouldn't touch it. They said they didn't work on older cars, didn't know anything about a 77 Scout. It was too complicated. It really isn't complicated much as it's labor, but regardless. That's why I do my own mechanical work. So as I'm calling around, they wanted anywhere north of $2,000 to do it. Plus, if it got more complicated, they would have to charge more. So I'm thinking, okay, total parts were less than $50. So I'm thinking I'm just going to do it myself. So I took a weekend and did it myself, cleaned up a lot of parts and things like that while I was at it. So here you took something that would have cost me over $2,000, taking them weeks to do. I took a weekend to do it and it cost me less than $50. So that's kind of the importance of learning to do it yourself and doing all that work yourself, is you're going to save a lot of money and you're going to enjoy your truck more. In terms of total cost of ownership too, to know with older cars, is you don't insure older cars like this like you do a new car. As a secondary car, you can go to alternative insurance companies. Like I use Hegarty, very happy with them. I think I pay like $250 a year to insure it. So as a hobby, if you do your own work, if you pick and choose your battles in terms of getting work done that you have to use kind of a professional to do, it's going to be super inexpensive, super fun. I can tell you nothing gets more looks than one of these cars driving it on a weekend. You're constantly getting the thumbs up. People always want to talk to you about it. It's a beautiful truck to own. It appreciates in value. I can't say enough positive things about the experience of ownership. It's a great hobby to spend your weekend working on, so I thoroughly enjoy that as well. So I highly recommend it. I highly recommend you get on the Facebook groups for the particular car that you're after and get to talk to the guys and ask questions and do things like that. It's a phenomenal Facebook group for the Scout, and we're always asking questions and helping one another out. Most Scout owners work on their own Scouts, which I really like. So you can ask any detailed question and you're going to get answers, and nobody's going to beat you up if you don't know what you're talking about. If you're asking a dumb question, they're going to help you out. It really is a good community for that. So I highly recommend getting into that group and doing that kind of work. If there's better ways to do it, I suggest you post it. If you saw something and you suggest a different way to do it, tell me a different way to do it. Always open to suggestions. I will make other videos going into each component in detail and how I fixed it and what my overall cost was and exactly how you do it in a video format, so those of you doing it at home can do it yourself very effectively. I'm one of these guys that I ended up always doing things 2 and 3 times till I get it right. So I kind of learned some shortcuts and some different ways to do it that I'll go over. But I hope you enjoy it. I hope you enjoyed the video. And by all means, recommendations, suggestions, anything else are always welcome. Thanks a lot.